Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. My name is JP Abercrombie, Executive Associate Athletics Director at the University of Notre Dame. As a former student athlete, NCAA leadership development programs have played a pivotal role in my evolution as a person and professional. A proud graduate of the esteemed Dr. Charles Whitcomb Leadership Institute, participant in the Effective Facilitation Workshop, past facilitator and selections committee member for the Career in Sports Forum, and previous recipient of a postgraduate scholarship enabling me to pursue a career in sports, I am a testament to the transformative, practical, and effective skill-building opportunities provided by these programs. Reflecting on my journey, my ability to be great in the present is a product of the investments others have made in me, as well as those I've made in myself, especially through these programs. But don't simply take my word for it. Invest in yourself by exploring NCAA leadership development programs today and by locking in, listening, and learning from today's leader on the next episode of One Question.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Lamarr Pottinger. Lamarr is the Associate Director of Leadership Development with the NCAA. Greetings, Lamarr. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ty.
Lamarr, you've been in the industry for over 10 years now, right?
Yep.
And when you talk about leadership development, you're talking about people. And one thing we talked about offline is talent development or organizational development.
Yeah.
Right? There's a concept in a book I wrote a long time ago with a guy named Will Baggett.
Yeah.
And one of my concepts was leaders need to ask themselves, is working for you more than just another paycheck? And from what we talked about, it sounds like that's what's important to you. Give us your thoughts on that, on how that ties into what you do with the NCAA and what you're doing in the future to focus on those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. And the piece about the pay versus the growth in the people, right, is I think it all comes together because at the end of the day, we do have a livelihood and we have to, tend to our needs, whether it's your family or personal life, whatever it is. But prioritizing the people as far as the growth and development from just the high level of organizational development is how you be successful in your organization, right? So everything from, we're talking about athletics department to maybe more of we sometimes say NCAA is a corporate feel in higher education, right? But when you look at the mid-level or lower-level, entry-level positions, they're not going to get paid what the AD is getting paid, right? The AD is paid high and the commissioners pay high because they take a lot of risk, right? And they're managing people's lives. But then when you get down to the mid-level and entry-level, the pay is different for specific reasons. But you have to prioritize pouring into those people so they can grow. And I'm a big advocate of growing people where they are, but also knowing that everyone isn't designed to move up the ladder as well, right? So I think it's important for, kind of to your point, managers or leaders figuring out and knowing their employees to a certain level of like, what does their growth development look like? And, being at leadership development and working with our programs, that's what we try to do on a larger scale, all the way from our student athlete programs to our entry-level programs to our mid-level and even, you call them executive senior level programs as well. We try to figure out what's the growth development at each of those stages so that we can develop the curriculum to then pour into them, But when we get to, like a leadership institute or pathway program, which is for our leaders that are kind of rising to that chair per se, those are the things that we talk about as well, right? How do you build a staff, recruit a staff, but then you got to retain that staff, right? And you may have someone that wants to be a deputy AD and never wants to be an AD, but they still want to grow. So what does that look like, right? What are those different opportunities that you can give him or her to be able to continue to grow in that role? But I don't want to be an AD. I just want to continue to learn and grow and do more. So I think it's very important that, leaders be able to understand the growth development of their employees and then figure out a way to get that done.
Yeah, that is important. It sounds to me like this is on the minds of the people in NCAA leadership development, but it's also on your mind, separate from NCAA leadership development. It just happens to be what you do, right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of a situation where something you're passionate about is what you do for a living, right? Things cross. What are you doing to further understand it and to further probably actionalize this passion that it sounds like you have?
Yeah. So through the pandemic, we had a lot of time. So I wanted to do better with reading. So I picked up a plethora of different books and even started a book club with a couple of colleagues because, again, we had time. So the first book was The Culture Code, which I'm gonna just say I'm bad with authors right now, so I'm not even gonna try to do it.
Title of the book is okay.
Yeah, so that was really good, but everything went back to, yes, it's culture, but it talked about HR and it talked about org development. Yeah, it referenced the San Antonio Spurs and the head coach there, but it all came back to this talent development, org development. And then we read a book called The Remix. I do know the author there because she was one of our speakers. Her name is Lindsay Pollock. And it talked about growing your organization with now the 5 generations that we have in the workforce. And she touched on leadership, management, communication, human resources, the employee experience, and it was all catered to those 5 generations. But during that time, the aha moment for me is that, yeah, I work in leadership development, but what we're doing is more of a corporate thing that's a part of HR, which is talent development. So I had this crazy idea to go back and get my second master's from the University of Louisville in human resources and org development. A lot of mentors that might listen to this thinks I still should get a PhD, but that's not for me. And I just really I want to learn. I talked to a lot of people about, the credentials. Should I get a certificate? And they just told me, if you really want to learn it, get a full master's degree. So that's what I'm doing. I'm almost done with the degree. I have 4 more classes, but I'm really in it when I stepped into it, I told myself, I'm stepping into this. Yes, it's going to help me in my workplace, but it's something personal to me that I literally want to just learn more. Like one of my core values is personal growth. So that's really what I nerd out on it all day, and I could probably talk people's ears off about it as well. So
when I think about HR, right, human resources, the term itself, we think about hiring, firing, onboarding, all those things, but the actual title, human resources, right, humans as a resource. What it has grown to for us to know probably doesn't fully define what it actually is. So the evolution of it now is like organizational development and change management and a lot of these different terms that you hear, especially in the MBA program.
Yeah.
Right? And I was recently talking to the athletics director from McAllister College, and he talked about understanding values and how values help the organization to be successful, to grow from the bottom of the conference to the middle of the conference, and then figure out what do we need to do within our culture with the people to grow to be at the top of the conference. So I wonder about that with the people that come through all the programs. You would hope they understand the value of it, especially after coming through a program. But I mean, do you see where in the vetting process, are people already attuned to it and that's why they get into programs? Or are you accepting people who may not be attuned to the things you're saying, human development and organizational development, and when they leave, they see that this is an important part to success as a leader?
Yeah, I think it's 2-part, just with the question there. I think leaders see value in org development and leadership development. To your point, I still don't think people understand that human resources is a part of that. In athletics, I say, right? Because athletics, if you think about the department, unless you're a Power 5 school, you don't have your own HR person. Right. So when you're working with your campus, to your point, hiring, firing, benefits, contracts, etc. You're not worried about the talent acquisition, the talent development. I mean, if I'm being honest, I would love to know what athletics departments really focus on their performance management systems and how they evaluate that. So I think the participants that come from our program for sure prioritize and want to continue to develop their employees or student athletes and have them come to our programs or try to do something on campus. But you made a good point of just people forgetting that it's human resources. So we're the resource to humans, right? And now it is more about org development and change management and figuring those things out. And through the research and just reading more about it, you're seeing more of, vice presidents of talent management, leadership development underneath the big umbrella of even now, yes, it's human resources, but you'll see a lot of chief people officer or people in culture, right? So I think that's there's a lot going on in athletics and change. I do think that is a big opportunity next for leaders to start to work and pour into those, not just at Division I, but all three divisions, to be able to prioritize that and use their campus HR and talent development, whoever that is, for their employees.
Do you think it would be necessary for, if everybody could afford it, to have a people person in each department?
I'm gonna throw a plug out there for my student athlete development professionals. Those people can do it, right? We are skilled to develop student athletes, but it's all the same thing, people, right? So if you have the resource to have that person, hopefully they can help your staff as well, or someone in your department that is good with curriculum, or even use your campus, student affairs, or your career center. But I do think if they could afford one person, you have to do it for sure, especially where we're going now, with all the change that we're having.
Everybody can't afford a JP Abercrombie. Right? I wonder about, like, how far within the organization do you think something like that would be necessary? I mean, a football coach thinks they are the ones that's developing the students, right? Student athletes, which they are in most cases. But then they do have player development. They do have things that you hope are about what the title is, and not just another person coaching, another person recruiting. But what do you think about it when you talk about that aspect of it? How's within each sport, if the coaching staff could have somebody who is focused on developing the staff as well as the students in terms of human development?
Yeah, that's probably a reach for sure. But I think that, just the few programs that we do have with coaches, I think it would hugely benefit the staff. I mean, that the best coaches are not just good leaders and mentors, but good managers of people, right? And you think about the best coaches that have their trees, and now they have other coaches at other schools, and now they're developing their trees. That's because that coach knew how to talk about values and pour into that staff. And whether they did professional development officially or not, I'm pretty sure they either read a book, or they had culture meetings, or there was something informal that head coach did to develop his staff to move on. So I think it would be very beneficial. And I'm pretty sure there's probably there is. Oklahoma, Kevin DeSacio is his name. He is an author, speaker, and consultant, works with a number of different organizations and institutions, but Oklahoma is the example for working with their football team and their entire athletics department, from a culture development, staff development, and then he's known for his book, Keep Chopping Wood, as well.
You talk about Oklahoma in itself. I grew up in the coaching profession, looking at Hayden Fry, who had a bunch of coaches go off and become head coaches all over the country, from Bob Stoops to Bill Snyder to all over the country. And Joe Castiglione is kind of that for athletic directors, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, right, it is working for you more than just another paycheck, right?
Yep.
A good leader develops other leaders. And so I think that's very important. I think it is the aspect of what a leader must do is develop the people that work on their staff. But the question for you is, it's an important responsibility, but is it one that leaders need to go get trained in? And then now, if I can't afford to have another person responsible for staff development, is it something that they need to take on as leaders from what you see? Because you're working with a lot of people who will be future leaders in the country.
I don't think so. I think I love the work that we do in professional development, but what I thrive off of is being a leader and manager of our own team. So I thrive off being able to grow and develop our interns or our assistant directors. And I think leaders can do that the same way, because you don't have to be trained to necessarily do curriculum staff development. But if you're a true leader, you should be able to be growing and leading your individuals. So I don't think it's a resource that you necessarily have to get a person to come in and do professional development and workshops. It could be just as organic as, hey, let's read culture code together, right? And that could be one-on-one. I know the chief people officer for the Detroit Pistons, She has 4 direct reports, and she's reading 4 different books with them. I don't recommend that. But she's reading 4 different books with them that is catered to their development. And they have those conversations as a part of their one-on-ones bi-weekly.
Wow.
One thing that Felicia Martin, our senior vice president over inclusion, education, and community engagement does with us is that she has a book that she's been reading, and now our staff has developed a book club with it, right? So we read a couple of chapters, and then we go and have a conversation about it probably like once a month. So that right there is what, a few dollars on buying the book and some time, right? It's, she does encourage us to go to conferences and all those things like that. But I think for leaders, it's as simple as that, or listen to a podcast, right? TED Talks, whatever it may be. But I don't think it's something that you necessarily have to have a
go hire a
financial resource or anything. Yeah. It's just really intentionality and time.
Becoming aware that it's necessary.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Doing whatever's necessary to be compliant in making sure that the people know that it's out there, and then applying tactical resources and principles to make sure it happens. Lamarr, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Yes, sir. That was Lamarr Pottinger. Lamarr is Associate Director of Leadership Development with the NCAA. And of course, I am Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.